Good morning, this is Esther checking in for the 10:30-ish ramble. It's Friday the 19th of June and we're here and in Lowestoft the sun is shining. It's a nice day. How are you? Let me know what's going on. I head up the Lowestoft Town Centre Chaplaincy team and we can't be out properly at the minute because of social distancing and restrictions, but we're looking at how we're going to do it. We're looking at setting up a remembrance space and place of reflection in Kensington Gardens so that we can all come together to remember those that we've lost during this time, to express our grief from just like the trauma of it all, and just to have a place where we sit and we consider. So we're working on that and we're going to let you know what's going to happen, but up until then I am just logging on live 3 times a week at 10:30 to bring you a thought for today. And my one today I have called, in true Friends fashion, the one where I'm moody and it's all your fault. The one where I'm moody and it's all your fault. Does anybody else in the world suffer from bad moods, or is it just me? Like, I think you do, and you just got to be honest about it. I don't think it's solely a woman's thing. It's not that stereotype. We all get bad moods, and I guess I've been thinking about why we get angry, why we get sad. Anger just really tends to mask our hurt, doesn't it? Like, we're angry because of how we're spoken to at work, but actually, like, that's about shame, or it's about misunderstanding or frustration or the pain of being overlooked, which really just affects our self-image, doesn't it? And our pride, like, it really stings. Maybe we're cross in the house because it's a mess, and so we shout or we grumble. But really, like, we're not angry as such. That's about disappointment, isn't it? It's about maybe feeling used, like feeling taken for granted. It's all about our identity and who we are. It's about feeling that we're not being respected, isn't it, for who we are, or seen for who we actually are, and being taken advantage of. Like, morning Pete, hello, nice to see you. Morning Elaine. It's like maybe we post something on social media and it causes an argument and we argue back, but that's like, we get angry, but actually it's about misunderstanding, isn't it? Or it's about you hitting a nerve with someone else's experience. It's about perceived judgment, or trying to find dialogue and understanding when it's really hard. It's about, do you know what, feeling that who you are is being attacked, isn't it? It like shakes our worldview. It makes us question and consider who we are. I don't really like to do that because that means standing on uneven ground, doesn't it? Having to be open to being wrong. And none of us like to be wrong, do we? We all want to be right the whole time. So I think in the end, like, our moods, unless they're hormonal, ladies, they're more about our identity, aren't they? They're about being frustrated, misunderstood, abused, and sometimes it's about us not wanting to look at ourselves and to sit in that uncomfortable place of reflection and change. Yeah, Pete says, like, some days we're just grumpy and some days we aren't. Sometimes we just wake up like it, but other times we're carrying over some kind of negativity from the day before. This week we have been talking about an ancient story from a guy called Jonah. Jonah was, don't know if you remember from the past few days, Jonah's a bloke with purpose for his life. Like, his purpose is to call out injustice in God's name. Yeah. Jonah's also a bloke that ran away from that purpose. Like, absolutely got on a boat, off he went, ran away. Jonah's a bloke who found himself in a storm. Yeah, and causing a storm for other people, because that's what happens when we run away, isn't it? We, from the path we're supposed to be on, we cause chaos and we cause storms for other people. This is Jonah who nearly died because of his life choices, you know. It's like, we get that too, don't we? Like, in big ways and small ways, how we can be dying one bit at a time in a life that we weren't meant to live, or in the monotony of everything, in the addiction, in the selfishness, in the anxiety of not being in harmony with ourselves and with the Creator. And we get that. And then this is about Jonah, who was met by the divine, you know, in the weirdest way, who did a time of self-reflection about his running away and decided to go and do what his life's purpose is. So we meet Jonah today again in another bad mood. Like, I get Jonah. I like Jonah. He is in a bad mood again, and he is so stroppy and he is so honest. Morning, Ian. Nice to see you. You know those people who you're sure are just fake, you know, like who are just saying what they think needs to be said. Like, we find those people really difficult, don't we? Maybe you're one of those people, you're a bit of a people pleaser. But let's learn from Jonah, because Jonah was honest, you know, like he is ranting at God. So what's happened is he's gone to this superpower, this militant empire that ransacks and destroys lives, and he's told them God's judgment is on you, because this God that we believe in on the Jesus path doesn't allow evil to go undealt with. Like, your heart cries out against the evil in the world, God is dealing with it. And in response to that, these people of this evil empire, you know, they promise to change the way they're going to live as a people. The leaders publicly declare that they've been wrong and they need to change. Like, imagine that. Imagine like the UN going to, I don't know, North Korea, sanctioning them, and the leaders in North Korea going, do you know what, you're right. We've behaved badly. I'm sorry. Or at the minute, like India and China are killing each other's soldiers. It's like one of them going, do you know what, we've got this wrong. I'm really sorry. We're going to change our ways. We don't see that much, do we? We don't see that humility very often. And because they say sorry, because they decide they're going to change, God doesn't pour judgment on them. He gives them a second chance. And I cannot find the words to describe politely how furious Jonah is about this. Like, he basically says, this is why I ran away in the first place. I knew, God, that you're gracious, that you're compassionate, that you're slow to get angry, that you're filled with unfailing love, and I'd rather be dead than alive, like, because what I predicted was going to happen isn't going to happen, and you are too gracious and I don't agree with it. Like, he's in a full-on meltdown. Like, if we were going to make it real for us, I guess it's like, could you give white supremacists a second chance? How could you be gracious, God, when a racist American police officer asks for forgiveness? How could you love someone, God, who has hurt me? How could you love them into change because I want them to be punished? Like, it just doesn't sit easy with us, does it, that God would love people enough to give them a second chance? We like it black and white, don't we? We like justice, we like our categories, but perfect love, you know, perfect love loves people into change, because that's what God's in the business of. That's how I understand it. And I love that Jonah finds that hard. Like, 1 minute he's running from his path, then he embraces what he's called to do. Then it doesn't go quite how he wants it to go, so he strops again. Like, anybody relate to that? Maybe you're not stroppy like me, maybe you're okay. Like, do you feel you have a purpose? Do you want to find it? Do you sense that there's perfect love in the divine that's calling you forward? Or have you run away for long enough now and you just need to go back? Like, embracing who you are, who God is and what your path is, it will bring you into harmony with who you're supposed to be and with your purpose in the world. But the Bible and this story is honest about how life is still a challenge. You know, it doesn't mean it's easy. It seems that God's in the business of surprising us, you know, and sometimes we like that and sometimes we don't. You see, God is working on Jonah here just as much as he is on Nineveh. And that's what struck me. He's challenging extremism in Jonah, you know. He's challenging selfishness in Jonah. He's challenging that easy place of pronouncing judgment on everybody and thinking that you're right. He is challenging Jonah's pride, Jonah's perspective. And you know what? We don't like it. But we do need that, don't we? We need to be challenged on our grumpiness and our perspective, because our identity can become so warped, you know, and we can make really bad decisions. But it's hard, and it may put us in a bad mood, because who likes to be challenged like Jonah? He does not want to be challenged, and it makes him really grumpy. But what struck me was we need to remember, I think, that this story that tells us that the divine God, the one who holds everything together, Jesus who breathes the eternal life force into us when we ask him to, is in the business of loving us into change. He copes with our honesty with compassion, and he loves us into being more who we're supposed to be, into being more whole people. And the story, I think, ends with a question. So God says to Jonah's having this strop. He's like sat down, folded his arms. He's kicking and screaming. He is not happy, like a toddler having a rant. He says to Jonah, you care about all sorts of little things, but Nineveh has 120,000 people living in spiritual darkness. They don't know what the hell they are doing. Shouldn't I feel sorry for such a great city, Jonah? Shouldn't I feel sorry for those people? And it ends on that question. Because Jonah doesn't respond. It doesn't tell us what Jonah says. Maybe he stays in his bad mood, Maybe he doesn't want to grow and change and embrace his path. The question is left hanging in the air. And I think maybe that question is for us, It's left because it's like, how are we going to respond? What are we going to say? How do we want to be? Like God says to us, you care about so many little things. Like you get upset and worried about all sorts of little things, like your car, your reputation, the stuff you have, your Insta feed, whether people are liking you on Facebook. Shouldn't I care about people, the really damaged ones? He said, if you care about such little things, shouldn't I care about the big things? Maybe God says to us, don't you want to allow me to love you into change as well? Like, don't you want to know more who you are? Don't you want to stop running? Don't you want to be less reactive and more whole, Do you want to be loved into a place where compassion and justice hang in the space between together? God says, I know you're moody about many things. I know it's hard to know who you are and to be on the right path. I know it's hard to self-examine. It's hard to be open. It's hard to try something new. It's hard to be open to change, but I am gracious. I give you what you need that you don't deserve. I'm compassionate. Don't think I don't get it. In fact, I lived and I died and I went through hell literally so that you would know how I get it and how hard it is. You would know that I know how hard it is, and that I am slow to get angry with you and my love won't fail you. So the question is left hanging for us. How are we going to move on from here? Like, do you want to stay in your mood? Do you want to find your path? Do you want to work out who you are? Do you want to let go of the things that hold you down? Or are you going to stay like Jonah, sitting in the strop in the middle of it, being cross with how things have turned out? Like, you're invited to let love and compassion that's perfect lead you forward, out of your mood, out of your extremist positions, out of your selfishness, out of your grumpiness, out of all the things you're running from. Like someone on here is saying that they're running from themselves. It's like God wants you to find yourself. That's what he's in the business of. Can he help someone who's confused about their faith? Of course he can. That's what he's all about. So as we finish for the day, I just want to say to you, may you know the God that went to Jonah and called him on the right path. May you know the God that went to Jonah, even when Jonah was moody and grumpy and resisting, and said to him, Jonah, shouldn't I care about you? And shouldn't I care about other people and about justice? May you know the God who helped Jonah find his identity, and even when it was rocky, sat with him and talked to him and led him through it. May you know the God that wants to restore you and has compassion and perfect love for you on this rocky journey. So that's my thought for today. I hope that makes sense. Do get in touch if you want to chat some more. I will be back on Monday at 10:30-ish. And if you want to have some wisdom and some inspiration over the weekend, Chaplaincy team is representing a whole host of churches in Lowestoft. I'm part of London Road Baptist Church. We broadcast on our Facebook page and YouTube page at 10:30 on Sunday. There's Lowestoft Community Church, St Andrews, Christ Church, Pakefield Church. So you may not be into church, you may be suspicious of church or damaged by church. We get that, we understand that. We're just people on a journey like you, wanting to understand what it means to be who we are, and to find our identity in who God made us to be. So take care, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.